Hello, hello, it's Leah Simone back with another thought. But before I get into that, I just want to say that I am by no means a perfect person or a medical professional or anything like that. These things that I share on my channel are just my thoughts, so please don't feel obligated to take them. I would not be offended. I'm just sharing what I'm learning through my life journey and, in the hopes that maybe it will help somebody along their journey as well. Was that gross for those of you guys who don't like people who touch their eyeballs? I apologize. I had like mascara in my eyeball. Anyways, so I had a thought. Speaking about imperfect people, you know how like in society, especially on social media, we'll see something that might happen or a trend that might come up or something that's like shunned upon, and then you'll see this a lot with celebrities where like, let's say as a society, we decide that it's not cool to like the color blue, for example. And then, like celebrities or people in general jump onto that bandwagon and then they're like, oh my God, blue is out. Like I need to go back to my page, delete everything that's blue. You know what I mean? It's like, let me go in my closet, find anything that's blue, shove it in the deepest part of the bin and shove it to the way back of the closet and like shun it with the rest of society and pretend like I have nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's silly. Like even describing that, you know what I mean? And I'm not judging because I used to be that person too. Like I used to be that person that was like, oh, we're looking down on that. Like, okay, I have no association with that. You know what I mean? But when I say it now, I feel like that is so silly. Let me tell you why. Because I realize, and I actually came about this thought process like when I was going back through my journal, or even like if I go back through like a Facebook page or an Instagram and I look at who I was, like years ago or a year ago, even 6 months ago. And I look at some of this stuff that I post, and yes, it's easy to look at it or read back in my journal and be like, oh my God, like what were you even thinking? You know what I'm saying? But I decided to reframe that because for one, we are all human beings here. Me, you, the rest of the world. So that is something that we have in common. And a part of the human experience is growing and evolving. Our perspectives change. I mean, you obviously don't think the same way that you do when you were 6. And if you do, that might be something to consider maybe seeking professional help for. I don't know. I'm not a professional, so do as you choose. But in general, most human beings, we don't think the same way that we did when we were 6 or 16 or 26 if you're older than that. You know what I mean? Like as you age and progress, you mature. Your perspective, your experiences, and the interactions that you have, they shape you. They shape how you view things, how you view people, how you view situations, culture, the world in general. So I decided I'm going to stop deleting my stuff. You know what I mean? I'm going to stop jumping onto these bandwagons of like, we don't associate with that. Because when I go back and I reflect, like, actually, I'm really fucking proud. I'm really proud and really impressed with myself with the growth that I have experienced in my life. And I feel like if more of us can just embrace that as human beings, like legit, everybody has these experiences. If more of us can just embrace that as human beings, first of all, it will help with the societal pressure and expectation of this like perfect image that is projected onto us that we take in and then feel we need to measure up to. And then that's gonna help to adjust the way that we judge the things that we receive. You know what I mean? Because if we're putting this pressure on ourselves, first of all, to be so perfect, then when somebody else calls, one second, you guys, I apologize. When somebody else calls, I had a call come in. But when somebody else shows up, we're then judging them from this same standard that we are judging ourselves. And like, that's not fair to ourselves, first of all. And that's not fair to the other person. It's not fair to the connection. It's not fair for society in a whole because it's just perpetuating this unnecessary expectation of perfection, which is insane if you ask me. So I decided that I am going to no longer do that. You know what I mean? I'm just going to embrace myself and my journey and be proud of it and be proud of it out loud. Like, yes, I was once an individual who had toxic ass traits. Am I perfect? No. Do I still have toxic traits? I'm so sure of it. I'm so sure of it. I'm a human being that has dealt with shit that has created these mechanisms within me, so I was operating in survival mode. So Yeah, I'm having to learn that and tear that down and break that down and learn new ways of being. And it is a challenge. Do not get me wrong. This shit is not easy. It is definitely a challenge, but I choose to embrace it rather than to like suppress it or hide it or whatever. Why? Because first of all, there's so much freedom in that. You know what I mean? Like imagine it's like you put up these boundaries because you don't want to get, okay, let me speak from my own perspective because this is what I was doing. Like I was putting up these boundaries where I didn't want people to get too close. Partly because I didn't want them to see the insecurities that I held within me. Partly because I was, distrusting and afraid that there might be some manipulation or whatever the situation was. My point in saying this though is, like you put up these boundaries to keep people from coming in. So you have this boundary here, you have this boundary here, you have this boundaries here, and then you're like, whew, I'm safe, you know what I mean? Like no one can come in and get me. But then you take a look around and you realize like, damn, I'm isolated as fuck. Like I'm actually trapped in this prison of boundaries that I have created myself. Let me be very clear in saying, I'm not encouraging you to go about your life without boundaries. That is like the opposite end of the spectrum of what I'm saying. That I don't feel that to be very healthy either. I think boundaries are important. However, for me, it was really important to take a look at the boundaries that I was setting, how many I had in place, how close or far they kept people, like how is that impacting my connections is essentially is the point that I'm trying to get to. And I realized that like I thought it was serving me. I thought it was a protection mechanism, and it worked for a long time. But now that I'm in this phase where I am like reprogramming my subconscious thoughts and my beliefs about myself and how other people will interact with me, and I am allowing myself this space and opportunity for engagements to come in and prove me wrong. So what I mean by that is like if I put up a boundary, for example, because I think that, someone is just going to manipulate me, they just want to use an interaction with me to get whatever it is that they want for their benefit, and then they're going to be out, and then I'm like, well, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? If that was something that I put in, I'm now like relaxing that boundary in the sense that I am giving people space to show me who they are for real. You know what I mean? And now if this person or these people are showing red flags, then yes, that's something that I'm going to take into account, and then I can make a decision from there. Because if you're showing red flags, no judgment, but I know how I am as a person, and I'm identifying my triggers and things like that. And so I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm constantly being triggered and now I'm like emotionally imbalanced and all of that. So I'm giving the other person the opportunity to show me who they are and to prove me wrong, that like maybe they're not a manipulative person. Maybe they are a human just like I am that has their own insecurities and their own issues and their own way of being, which is basically it quite possibly could be their own defense mechanism that has protected them and help them get to life to whatever point that they're in. And so I'm not approaching that with judgment, but my point in saying this is I've recognized that the boundaries that I've been putting up and that I've been placing has really been keeping me like isolated and keeping me from authentically and deeply connecting with people, which is wild because for my whole life, like now, even as an individual, that is what I crave. That's what I love. Like I find people so fascinating. I find them I'm so curious about people of all kinds, like I'm the type of person that I'm like, I want to know everything. You know what I mean? It's almost a way of like being able to travel into new worlds without even having to deal with the struggle of packing a bag, for example. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. I'm just a really curious person. And I realized that these boundaries were keeping me from fulfilling a deep soul need of connecting with people on a level that's deeper than just superficial conversation like, hey, how are you doing? The weather's great. Oh my God, these kids are crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And no judgment to anybody who is at that point in their journey. Everybody may not be like me where they don't want to have deep, where they want to have, what am I trying to say? Everyone may not be like me where they want to have deeper connections. And cool, I respect it. I hope you find your people. You know what I'm saying? Because that's all I'm trying to do is find my people. I know this totally like kind of weaved in and out and navigated from my initial point, which was basically to say like, open up your closet doors and embrace that. Even if it's just that you have to do it on your own first. You know what I mean? Like, look through your metaphorical, I'm talking about your internal closet. So like your metaphorical closet doors and embrace that. Like, what is it about you that you are hiding or suppressing or you don't want anybody to see? Like, take the time to love that for yourself, because when you do, and then you start having conversations of when you can embrace that, then you can start to feel comfortable with that. When you start to feel comfortable with that, you can start to have conversations with other people about it without the fear of judgment, because you have already accepted it yourself. And then once you get to that point, it's mind-blowing because you realize how many other people are out there like you. I know I sound so cliche, but like, it's legit. You know what I'm saying? If we could just get past the fear. And I get it, I dig it. It's not always as easy as it sounds when people say push past the fear, because like a lot of these fears are like deeply seated, which then leads me to, you know, a video I posted earlier about internal reflection and why that's so important. It's all connected. It's all like such a cycle. It's all intertwined. We are all intertwined. Let me just take a step back because I'm getting so excited and I'm like going off on all these different tangents. But my point in saying this is I actually have no idea. So I'm hoping that you're picking something up from all of this stuff that I'm explaining. But embrace your closet, you guys. Open the doors. Allow yourself to go in your internal metaphorical closet and embrace everything that's in there. But not only embrace it, decide like, you know, is this even still useful to me anymore? If not, get rid of it, you know? Why? Well, for one, because it's not serving you. But two, like once you go through and you clean out this internal metaphorical closet, you have so much more space to bring in the things that you do love, that you do enjoy. And like, imagine how full your life will be if you take the time to do that. That's the journey that I'm on right now. So like all of this excitement that you see, that's where that's coming from, because I'm taking the time to learn to love me. And it's painful sometimes. And sometimes it's like, holy shit, I forgot that I do totally love this about myself. I forgot that I am this person. I forgot that I do this. You know what I mean? It's so easy for us to get so hard on ourselves and say like, oh my God, I haven't done this, or I have all these responsibilities, or I'm, you know, a shitty person because I didn't show up for this friend or whatever. But like, what about you? You know what I mean? Like, are you showing up for you? Because as much as you care about that other person, do you care about yourself that much too? Like, I know I do. I'm learning to again. You know, there was events happen in life where it makes you question everything that you are. And I really, truly think that's divine. I think that's a part of, you know, being able to grow and elevate. Shit happens where you have to like sit yourself down and then take a look at yourself and be like, what's happening with life, you know? And then you make changes from there. So let me circle back to the original thought, because this was meant to be like an interactive thought. I'm curious to know how you guys feel about that, or what you think, you know, about this metaphorical internal closet and no longer like hiding the things that you like just because other people like it, you know. And I know I'm speaking so like weird and in metaphors. So let me just be direct. You know, the elements about yourself, the aspects about yourself that you feel maybe is like a core of who you are. When society decides, you know, like, oh no, we're not doing that, or like, we don't like that or whatever, but maybe that's an element. I'm not talking about anything toxic. Let me be clear. I'm talking about like maybe people who are, let's say, introverted, and they like to just spend a week away from everybody, maybe away from social media. And then let's say society says like, oh no, that's unhealthy. Like, you're depressed, you're anxious, or whatever. I don't know. If society deems something, an aspect within you that you feel revives you or is like life-giving to you, you know what I mean? Do you feel like you need to hide that aspect about yourself? Like, are you comfortable with being able to say, oh no, I disagree, buddy. Like, that recharges my battery, or like that gives me life, or like I'm doing this for a purpose, you know what I mean? And it's serving. Like, how do you guys feel? Let me know. Anyways, I apologize if this video kind of was all over the place and hard to follow, but truly I hope that you were able to get something from this. In the meantime, I love you guys, of course, always. Thank you so much for visiting my channel and making a girl feel special. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.